Tyron the Chosen One Woodley here in the main event zone with your host, PAW. Tune in, stay tuned, listen up, don't leave.
What's going on, Fight World? This is your boy, PAW. You are currently now entering the main event zone. I've added the word zone to it now, so not too much of a change, but I had to make sure the brand gets recognized. So the main event zone here, of course, got the new website up as well, themaineventzone.com. Check it out for all my past main event episodes, as well as all the new ones coming through. Today, I have an amazing guest. This is the one I've definitely been looking forward to. I mean, this guy's one of my favorite knockout artists. I'm talking about the Josh Koscheck knockout was one of my favorite knockouts in the UFC. I showed everybody that particular one, so this is going to be a definite treat for everybody. This guy should be #1 contender, but we'll talk about that in a second. I have
Tyron, the Chosen One, Woodley.
What's going on, Tyron?
What's up, brother? How you doing?
I'm blessed, man. It's good to have you here, man. I know you've been rehabbing, you've been getting ready, trying to get back for your return. So tell me, first of all, how's the foot injury?
Foot's doing well, man. My bone's completely healed at this point. So now it's just basically redeveloping that muscle memory and just really trusting the foot. You know, my doctor said you can do whatever you want to, you know, you don't have to baby it. So for me, it's just really believing that, because you haven't used this foot in so long, you kind of want to baby it. So I've been jumping rope. I did some Bursa climbing the other day. Been hitting the bag. I hate hitting the bag, and I've hit the bag so many times. My punching power is going to be ridiculous when I get back to the octagon. So I'm excited to see how that transition and, just staying positive.
I'm definitely excited to hear that. So what I always do with all my guests, I like to kind of start from the beginning, because not everybody knows these fighters' stories. And I want to make sure people understand what they go through to get to the level that they're at. So tell me your fighter origin story.
You know, basically, I was a wrestler. I wrestled in high school, went to University of Missouri, wrestled. I was a two-time All-American there and a Big 12 champion. Watching guys like Rashad Evans and Gray Maynard and other guys like that did very well in mixed martial arts. And I said, man, I got an explosive style of wrestling. I think my style would transition well into mixed martial arts. So I kind of started punching the bag one day in the weight room. I was a coach at University of Missouri, and I was punching the bag. I said, okay, I'm going to punch as hard as I can for a minute. The next time I said, I'm going to punch as hard as I can for 2 or 3 minutes. It's kind of comical now, because at that time I used to be dead in like 1 minute. But I remember I was in amazing wrestling shape, which is completely different. So I said, I want to try a fight. So I went out to a local gym. I told the guy, hey, man, you got a fight card coming up. I want to fight on this show. And he was like, okay, what's your name? And I was like, my name's Tyron Woodley. And he turned around. He had a Mizzou wrestling poster on his wall. He said, is that you right there? And I was like, yeah. He said, you're on the card. So 2 weeks later, I fought, really no formal training. And I submitted to dude in like 20 seconds. Then my next fight, I knocked the guy out in 30 seconds. The next fight, I knocked the guy out in 10 seconds. So my first 4 or 5 fights were done in the first minute in amateur. And, I was really trying to test it out and see if I like it. See if it's something I want to get into, because I was fighting and I was trying to compete for I was trying to make a world team at the time. So I was wrestling at the same time, and I had to really make a choice because they didn't go hand in hand together. The training was quite different, and it was real taxing on my body. So I went the MMA route because I felt like, the style of wrestling I was doing called freestyle, but I was so broke, it was really feeling like freestyle.
Oh, for
Like
free.
I was just for free. So I figured, I've been wanting to punch guys for a while anyway, so why not do it and get some money off of it?
Makes perfect sense, and definitely, I'm sure you're getting paid pretty decently now to knock people out, which has to be fun. I mean, come on, knock people out, getting paid for it. I mean, people did that on the playground for nothing, so.
But yeah, it's just good because I didn't start off as a person you would expect to knock everybody out. An amateur, I finished all my amateur fights. Most of them knockouts, some of them submissions. Some guys tapped out 2 punches. So all my fights in amateur I finished. And my first 5 pro fights, they were all submissions. And then I had a couple decisions, and I became the wrestler that wanted to take guys down and control the fight. So then I got tired of hearing that. Then I started knocking people out. So I've been riding this kind of style out for the longest. But I do look forward to getting back into more wrestling, submissions as well as the knockouts. It gives guys more things to think about. If you're just thinking about a hard right hand, you can kind of prepare for that. But if you got to think about my kicks, my wrestling, my takedowns, my jiu-jitsu, my conditioning, my force, my speed, my power, you're in the big world of hurt. And I think that's the kind of fighter I want to be.
Okay. So now let's get right into it. You've been offered a lot of interesting fight choices. So do you feel at this time that you and the UFC are on the same page as far as your direction?
I just feel like, what happens when the UFC offers you a fight. I always pick fights not based upon money. I've declined fights and been so broke, borrowing, in debt, and I declined fights because career-wise it didn't make sense. I never want to be a fighter that's fighting for money. So when you take the money out of the equation, that's just whipped cream on the cake. When I don't ever think about the money until when I get out of the cage, I'm like, oh, I won. Oh, I got some stacks on deck. So I get excited at that point, but I really want to leave a legacy, man. I want to get to the top. I want to take the proper path to the top. So when you offer me an opponent that doesn't put me in a position to fight for a world title, I kind of question, why did you offer that opponent? Or if the guy you offer me, if he's not in a position where he's going to be fighting for a title, I don't understand how it really makes sense for me to fight him. So I'm not asking for easy fights. The last couple of weeks, people have been like, oh, you pick fights. And I started thinking about, you know what? You're right. I do pick fights. But I just so happen to pick Johnny Hendricks and Matt Brown and Carlos Condit. Just so happen to be some of the top guys in the division and arguably some of the most dangerous guys. So it's not like I'm picking guys on difficulty. I'm picking them on, if they put me in a position to fight for a world title.
Okay. So now, seeing what happened to Jacare Souza, I mean, this guy was the #1 contender, undisputed at that point. He got offered a fight. He took it. The person gets injured. He gets somebody else. Luke Rockhold also gets a fight, a higher ranked fighter. He beats him. He beats Lyoto Machida, and all of a sudden he's the #1 contender. So do you feel like with the way things are working, does being a #1 contender even matter anymore? Does the whole ranking system, is it flawed?
The ranking system is definitely flawed. You look at a guy like Dong Young Kim that fought last night, or whenever this shows. Dong Young Kim fought, and he's ranked 9th, 10th, or whatever, but he has victories over Matt Brown, who's ranked 5th. Matt Brown, to date, has never beaten a top 10 welterweight in his career, ever. And he's ranked 5th. Then you got guys like Jake Ellenberger, who's had 3 losses in a row, came back and beat a non-ranked Koscheck after a year and a half suspension. A year and a half retirement. And then you still in the top 10. So it's like, it really doesn't make a ton of sense for me, especially when, it's been a couple times where guys been put in the #1 contendership bouts. And I haven't been one of those guys, and I've been, holding it down pretty strong since I got to the UFC. So I think that rankings hold some play. But I think really the style you fight, your last performance, and how well you mesh with the organization is really going to put you in those significant bouts. You still got to go out there and fight and win. It's about fighting a style of fight that they think a champion will be able to continue to fight. So that's the whole thing for real.
Okay. So now, looking at how that whole thing works, would you be in favor of the UFC bringing back tournaments, whether it's within the same night or over a period of time? Because in that way you have brackets, so then from there
Early in my career, man, I've been down for that. Right now, I just think that every welterweight, I would go all the way to the 25th welterweight. From 1 through 25, these guys are ridiculously tough. So for us to fight that many fights that close together, it wouldn't work out well for many people. It's just basically who can go in there, finish fights, not get injured, and have the energy and the fortitude to keep that focus for 3 or 4 days straight. I just personally think guys are just too good. You know, that belt's going to change hand a couple times because everybody's so good and styles really makes fights. So I wouldn't be down for the tournament, but I would be down for, either using the ranking system as you have it set and do it more like a sport. And in basketball, if you're in the playoffs, it don't matter if you sell 1 million pay-per-views and you talk crap or not. If you beat this team, you go and you advance to the next person. You're going to advance to the semifinals, and then you're going to make it to the fight for the championship. So I think that our sport could be like that, but then you have the business and the entertainment aspect where some guys like Conor McGregor or guys that like Chael Sonnen or guys that really will talk up a fight and sell pay-per-view buys, they kind of make it a little bit more attractive to put them in those world title bouts.
Yeah, interesting point because I'm of course a basketball fan as well, and my team is San Antonio Spurs. Definitely not the most exciting team. They're not the Cavs. They're not the former Heat. They won the championship last year, yet I couldn't go into any store and find one jersey. And that's amazing to me. Still, I mean, they were in the playoffs, no jerseys, but there was Heat, there was all types of other major and popular teams. So it's kind of like, regardless, they still won the championship. They got the opportunity because they earned it. So I kind of see what you're going with that. Now, if you're not giving Johnny Hendricks, then who's next for you? Who makes sense for you?
You know, I always do this, man. I print out the rankings and I take a nice close look. I look at guys that I fought before. I look at guys that I haven't fought. And I look at guys, I always try to go to the top 5. I always believe that for me, I'm one victory away from a title shot. I beat one top 5 guy, I get a title shot. Now, if the UFC would guarantee, which I don't think they will, and I don't know that they ever have, if they guarantee me if you beat the number 10 guy or the number 9 guy or the number 6 or 7 guy, you win this fight, you fight for a world title. I think that they're more so looking for a performance. I can go out there and I can have a razor close bout, like Johnny Hendricks had a razor close bout against Matt Brown. I mean, he had to beat him with takedowns. Excuse me, in my opinion, he was losing the striking aspect of it. Matt Brown was looking really good on his feet, but then Johnny Hendricks used his wrestling, which he should have. Since he didn't go out there and get into a brawl like they know that he can do, he's not guaranteed a title shot. A lot of people are misconstrued that he's guaranteed a title shot. Johnny Hendricks is not guaranteed a title shot right now. They're going to watch some other bouts that are coming up. They're going to watch his world title bout, and they're going to sit and think about it. They're going to do what makes sense. Maybe it's me fighting Johnny. Maybe it's Johnny getting a rematch. And it also depends on who wins the fight. What if somebody gets injured? What if somebody wins the fight and then they fail a drug test? What if it's a draw? Or, it's so many different variables. What if Robbie wins again and nobody wants to see a trilogy? Think about, like, you're a basketball fan. Think about if the Spurs beat Miami Heat in double overtime. If they win, they win. You don't go into, but that was such a close match. It was so close. Let's do a rematch. Or let's do a trilogy. No, you got to wait till the next season to play that team again. And I think that if you lose a fight, you should have to earn your way back up to the title. And you shouldn't have to only fight one fight. When Robbie came back, he took 2 fights quickly. He fought Ellenberg, he fought Matt Brown, then he got a title shot. I think Johnny Hendricks should have to fight one more fight. That's just my personal opinion.
Okay, makes sense. So now, for that Rumble versus Cormier fight, it featured a wrestler versus a fighter with serious one-punch knockout power. You possess both. So now, how do you feel your style poses a threat to your division?
I think my style is a choppy style. I think guys come out there looking for something, they get something different. Guys come out looking for a hard right hand, they get me taking them down. Guys come out looking for me taking them down, they get a hard right hand or they get jabs. My last fight, the guy was expecting me to get tired, and he was sadly mistaken because he was the one that got tired. And I used footwork, I used lateral motion, jabs. I made a miss lot. I pulled punches and countered real well. So, I'm just trying to get that fight where I put it all together. And it's a blessing that I've been able to go this far, have this amount of success in the toughest division in the world, and I haven't even put it all together yet. I'm the only fighter that's in the top 5 in the world that's only 50% of their potential. Everybody else, they're right where they're at. That's why they want to fight in these title fights. because they're all thinking about hanging it up. I'm thinking I'm just getting started. So when I start putting my time in together, my strikes, more punches in my combinations, using a little bit more of my wrestling and my grappling, and then setting up the power through the combinations, I think I'm going to be a very tough guy. I can be one of the few guys that can get that belt and hold it for a while.
Okay. Well, let's look forward to that. Hopefully, Joe Silva takes him into consideration when it comes to getting this man a title shot or a fight to get him a title shot. Now, I see the American Top Team shirt you got on there, so we got to kind of transition to the current season of The Ultimate Fighter, where Blackzilians are facing the American Top Team. So, what's your opinion on the season, and do you feel that American Top Team can pull the whole thing through? I mean, I'm sure it's already kind of happened, so what do you think, just from watching the show on TV?
I think pull it through. You hate to give the Blackzilians any type of ammunition, man. They got off to all those fights in a row. The Sabah kid, that fight was kind of close. I mean, you could have went either way. My man Hyder came through and got the TKO win. So I think it's all about momentum. It's a long season. It's a long show. Really just hope that they realize that, man, we cannot let these dudes get over on us, man. Like even last night, you know, I'm like, man, I love to watch Vitor fight, but I don't want him to win because they're gonna be talking all kind of trash. You know, even Rumble, man. I like Rumble and I like DC, you know, but I had to go for the Strikeforce alum, the Big 12 wrestler, the Division I wrestler from the Big 12. I had to go with him. And part of it is because, like, man, I like these guys, but I don't want the Blackzilians to get nothing.
Yeah, I was wondering about this because I knew you were going to be biased. Number one, it was the Blackzilians were in both title fights, plus their opponents were both wrestlers. So it's kind of like I kind of knew where you were kind of siding.
It was an easy pick.
Okay, so now speaking of, we mentioned Rashad Evans earlier. During the promotion of the show, you got into a kind of a verbal spat with Rashad Evans regarding the show. So in retrospect, what do you feel about some of the points that he made and just, you know, how that whole thing went down?
Well, Rashad, me and him give each other crap. We hung out all week. So he's like a big brother to me, and we just having fun with it. But I really think me and Rashad, we've always been cordial. You know, I consider him a big brother. I watched him quite a bit, and I watched his path to the top. You know, if you ever think back and sit back and think about his path to a world title, he fought Tito Ortiz the time he should have fought Tito Ortiz. He fought Chuck Liddell the time he should have fought Chuck Liddell. So he fought the right fights at the right time and went on, and he seized the moment, and he was a world champion. You know, that's how I kind of try to model my path to the top, you know, after watching him. Some of the points he was making is that if it was such a big deal that those guys that left American Top Team, he said those guys haven't won on and won world titles, and they haven't, you know, just tore it up in the mixed martial art arena. So why is it that big of a deal? And if you really realize, people in the American Top Team, we really don't talk about the Blackzilians very often. We're focused on being the best team in the world. We're not really worried about being the best team in South Florida. So the drama is there, and it's really between the owners. Like, I've dealt with Glenn. You know, I was a Jocko athlete for a long time, so I had to talk to Dan and see if he was okay with me working with Jen for a short sponsor. He said, fine, go ahead and do it. I talked to Glenn. It was all respectful. There was no drama, no animosity, and the business went, you know, it was a good business deal. But their drama is real. It's not fake. You know, sometimes we got to ask. That's real drama. Those guys have had that drama for so long, and I'm surprised they've been able to keep them in the same room without somebody going upside somebody's head. So it's kind of like the East-West war, you know. I ain't got nothing against, you know, Snoop Dogg or nobody else, but, you know, if I'm with Tupac, I'm with Tupac. I can't go and be hanging out with the dudes that's with Biggie. So it's kind of like we riding with Tupac, and then they riding with Biggie. So, you know, it's nothing against the other side, but it's just that your loyalties with this guy and his team, you know, you got, when it come down to it, you got to ride with him. Right.
Yeah, I was talking to your boy Dean Thomas about this last time I talked to him, and shout out to Dean Thomas as well. What's going on, man? So this whole idea as far as having gym versus gym, this is actually a really, really good idea as far as now bringing it to the American household. I mean, now knowing that there's teams of folks so different that can correspond to Bellator, to UFC. Anytime a American Top Team fighter fights against a Blackzilian fighter, the promotion is there. The rivalry's there. And so when you're having Jose Aldo's team versus the folks at Alpha Male, you make that the next season. Then from there, you're having these different rivalries that are going on. So it's just added promotion for these fights. It sells itself at that point. So how do you feel about this whole now gym rivalry that's kind of being brought to the American public?
Man, I love the idea of gym versus gym. It takes the idea of these guys having to fight each other. Sometimes you get on these teams, you train with these guys, and then just because of the win and the losses, you can end up fighting guys on your team. I think that it's great that American Top Team did this first. They kind of changed the game. They've done more promotion for the TUF 21 than any other TUF show. You see TUF Talk afterwards. You see guys being flown out to L.A. and they're in studio sitting side by side. Like last week, I was dying laughing. The dude, Hyder's my boy, and he was going at it with Jason Jackson. I had to follow Jason the other day because he had me dying. He was just instigating, trying to push Hyder's buttons and trying to get underneath the skin. But I think it's just good for the fans to get a chance not only to know them on the show, but after the show, get a chance to know them, after they had a chance to digest. But they still don't even tell you what the rest of the show is. So I think you can see like Alliance versus the Alpha Male. Dominique Cruz and Uriah had some beef in the past. So you can see AKA versus Greg Jackson. They're always fighting for the number one team in the world. And, I don't know how it's going to work because right now in South Florida, it's easy because both teams are within 7 miles of each other. So it's easy to do it. So they would have to find, a neutral ground or maybe they do it in, maybe they do it in their home gym and then they have to fly out somebody. But that traveling is just a different aspect. So I know they're going to continue it, but I don't understand how they're going to do the geographic thing.
Yeah, so you mentioned some of the members of the current ATT team on the show. So now, have you been happy with the fighter selection process that the coaches have been doing? And then from there, who do you feel out of the bunch has the brightest future or can really definitely make it in the UFC?
It surprised me, man. The dude they picked first, Mike Graves. Mike Graves is a beast, man. I've had Mike Graves in camp. I had Colby Covington, who just beat Mike Powell. I've had Nathan Coy I fought before, and I've had him in a couple of training camps. The tall guy that had a seizure, I trained with him pretty much my whole training camp for Dun Young Kim because he's super tall and southpaw. So all these guys I've had some intimate training sessions with, and I think they picked the right guys. Some of the guys I was kind of new to. Steve Carl obviously has a lot of experience. He's probably the most seasoned veteran on the team. But I really thought Mike Graves had the intangibles. He didn't have the name, and he might not jump out to you personality-wise. But he's just strong in every area, and I think that he might have just been nervous being the first fight with that kind of exposure.
Okay, so then how's it going to happen when it's time for you and Robbie Lawler?
I don't think about that until I get to that point. Right now I'm not in a position to fight for a world title. So when I'm watching him fight, I'm really genuinely his friend, and I'm really genuinely want him to win. It's like I'm torn. Like I want him to win, but I know that if he keeps winning and I keep winning, at some point, me and him are gonna have to sit down and have lunch and see if there's something that we cool with. We spoke about it briefly a couple times, but when I'm not in that spot, I'm just a supporter, man. I want him to win. I want him to continue to find his dreams. He's had a long road, man. He left the UFC at like 18 or 19 years old. He went to other promotions, different weight class. Had a great time with Icon. Came over to Strikeforce, started off strong, had some bumps along the road. Came back to the UFC, switched weight classes, and has been on a tear. So how do you not respect that? He's such a good dude. And, until I get to that point, I really don't focus on it. And that's something that me and him will decide. I don't want the fans. I don't want the UFC. I want to be able to sit down with Robbie, grab some food with him, say, hey, man, this is a chance for us to make some money. This is a chance for us to fight. What do you feel? And ultimately, it's almost going to be in his court because he's the champion. So, he's in a position where he's going to be the one that's kind of say, I'm cool with it or I'm not,
Okay, so then if he said he's not cool with it, then
I don't know that he would though. He'll tell you any day that Robbie said I don't have to get jacked to fight you. He's not an emotional fighter. He's just a fighter and he likes to do it and he's a competitor. So I think that he can separate the two. And there is a chance he said, you know what, I'd rather not do it. And that's something we just have to deal with. I'm just not big enough to go up to a middleweight. You know, I get smashed by freaking Whiteman and freaking Luke Rocco. I couldn't imagine standing across the cage from them. You know, Luke's my boy, and I spar with him, and that's enough as is. Less known trying to compete against him.
Okay. So now here's the thing. You beat Kelvin Gastelum, and then he gets to coach the next Ultimate Fighter in Latin America. So what are your thoughts on that? And then from there, would you be...
miss weight by 10 pounds and lose a fight, and then I'll get to coach in the TUF 22 or something. I just think it's funny, you know. I think it's funny that, you know, especially when I was, you know, I was very respectful to him. You know, I didn't really try to slap it in his face. I wasn't doing those things just to do it to get extra love. You know, I really knew the whole training camp. I'm like, this kid doesn't know he's going to lose this fight. He believes he's going to win. It reminds me of myself when I was 10-0, begging for a title shot. I got what I asked for, and I walked into Neymar court. Granted, it was a great fight. We went at each other like freaking two mice in a wool sock. But I came out and I got knocked out. And I got up and I was heartbroken and I was depressed. And I did not think I was going to lose that fight. So I was just thinking, what is this kid going to go through? I've been there before. Maybe I can just give him a couple encouraging words. He's so young, not to take this the wrong way, but really just keep pushing, you know, because he can be a champion at some point of his career. Obviously, he got to you know, change some things in his diet and really focus on his nutrition. But I just didn't like some of the stuff that was said afterwards, and I beat him. And then I'm just sitting around, and I don't have anything coming my way, and he gets to coach an Ultimate Fighter. So what God has for me is for me. You know, it's tough to realize that when you injured and you watching everybody else, but I know that's the truth.
Okay, perfect segue to my next question. You did say that God led you to get the money back to him after he missed weight, and of course that money goes to you. Now, how much is your religion a part of your career?
I would like to say, you know, it's not so much about religion, you know, because I'm a Christian, and Christianity is probably one of the most scrutinized religions because people put themselves on a pedestal. When they put themselves on a pedestal, it's like putting yourself on the Empire State Building, and you make a mistake, you get in an accident, you get a DWI, you do something inappropriate. That's a long and very transparent and visible fall from the top, and it's hard to crawl back up there. So I like to keep myself afloat. I like to, you know, be open that, hey, I'm not perfect, you know, I'm transparent, but also you not being perfect is not an excuse. Your job as a human is to try to chase this impossible perfection. And I like to say that I have a strong and close relationship with God, and that's been my secret weapon in fighting. So some choices I make that spiritually make sense, that intellectually and rationally don't make sense, you know, walking by faith and not by sight. So it's probably the strongest part of my training and my camp and what I do, because if I really had a camera following me around every day and they saw the resources I had and they saw what I, you know, put together for camps and things like that, you would be surprised on how successful I've been able to be towards my competitors who have a lot more.
Okay. So now, as we mentioned, you haven't been a coach on The Ultimate Fighter yet, but you have been on a lot of past editions of the UFC's Embedded. And in those situations, you've shared experiences with you and your family. So now, how comfortable were you with sharing with the world experiences with your wife and kids?
I love that aspect because that's really what I fight for. You know, I think Embedded is something a little bit different than the UFC Countdown. It's an opportunity for them to get to know you for who you are and to get to know what you really fight for. And that's what I fight for. I fight for God first, my wife second, my kids after that. Then it's legacy. You know, it's legacy, leaving behind, you know, a path in the sand where people know that I was here and they know that I made an impression in the sport, that I inspired, that I motivated, that people saw me fight and they're like, man, there's something special about that kid. Then I get an opportunity to tell them what it is. Yeah, you know, it's a God that lies in me that's special. It's the things that he's given me, the strength of Samson and the speed and the power and the intellect. You know, I'm one of the fighters that if you think about it from a business aspect, you think about it from an athlete or athletic standpoint or skill set or a mindset, you know, pretty much every category I have a check in. So I'm really blessed to be in that position, and I just want to share that. So I have no issue with doing that. You know, even if my house is a little scattered and messed up, people need to realize that we don't freaking eat goat cheese and and eat pasture grass, and that we don't make mistakes, and that we love training every day. They need to know that some days, like yesterday, I didn't want to train. I was tired. My ankle was sore. I was feeling sorry for myself. But then I watched a few of those fights, and I'm like, man, I took my butt in the basement, went back to the boom boom room, and I started hitting that bag, and I started beating that bag up. And then I hopped in the sauna, and I, got out, and I'm like, you know what? I feel better because those things inspire me. They motivate me. Anytime somebody gets strapped up, anytime somebody win a world title, I just want to go downstairs and start getting it in.
Okay. All right. So now I know you're from Ferguson, which of course has gone through their trials and tribulations when it comes to the police and its citizens. Now, I actually live near Baltimore. So they've had their share of in the limelight on the news and the media about what's been going on with the citizens here and the police. So what's your thought as far as this growing concern in our communities?
This concern is not growing. I think this concern is old. And it's embarrassing that it's taken this long for it to get exposure. Baltimore's a rough spot, man. It's been that way for a long time. It shouldn't have taken 15, 20 years of something that's consistently been wrong. The only reason why we see it now is why? Because social media. People got cameras out more. Otherwise, it'd be swept under the rug like it always has. The police officers in Ferguson, growing up as a kid, I just remember being harassed. I remember my friends getting beat up. I remember they took the kids behind a convenience station, put phone books in their shirt and beat them so they didn't bruise. So this thing is real. It's not every police officer, but one bad apple can spoil a whole bunch. And I think that it's really the concept of 2 or 3 police officers giving the entire department a bad rap. Then after that, sometimes you think like, shit, well, we already got a bad rap. Why am I going to go the extra mile to protect and serve? Man, these kids get on my nerves. And we also got to not fit the damn stereotype. That stereotype didn't come out to win. Nobody said, hey, kids walking around looking like hoodlums, pants hanging off their butt, not respecting authority, stealing, being disrespectful. Nobody said that. Then all of a sudden, you know what? That sounds good. That sounds like a good description to fit. Let me pull my pants down. Let me start talking in broken English. Let me start going in here and stealing from the stores. You know what I mean? We did something to make that stereotype. So I think it's wrong on both sides. It's wrong on both sides. And the only way the wrong is going to be solved is some very, very uncomfortable conversations happen in the community with community leaders, law enforcement, fire, any type of civil servant that's supposed to be a constituent that serves the neighborhood. They all should be held accountable. A badge doesn't give you the right to shoot someone as much as, just regular citizen or civilian shooting someone. And if you have to use force because, deadly force is required, then that's your job, to go home safe or to protect the community. That's a different story. So I think that line has just been played with too much on the usage of force. And maybe it's something they have to go back and rewrite the book and manual on what, when is the time to use force, because I think sometimes it's excessive. Sometimes, it's been 3 or 4 kids that's gotten shot in St. Louis from police officers that hasn't been brought up in the news, 2 of them, I saw on the internet, clear as day. Kid walking towards the police officer saying, shoot me, kill me, kill me. Okay, that's not the same situation as Mike Brown, which we don't have video of, we don't really know. There was another situation, a kid was shooting at the police officer, he got shot. So, you just got to really look at each situation, but at the end of the day, something needs to happen, something needs to change. If you're a fan of Killer Mike, I started rapping with Killer Mike, man, this dude would drop knowledge on you right quick. I didn't realize, I loved him as an artist, I didn't realize how smart he was in the aspect of politics, particularly in the inner city or largely populated urban communities. He brought out some points that I would have never thought of. So if you ever get a chance, Google some of his stuff or YouTube some of his stuff. But he had a really good different lens, and his partners and the people he go on tour with are Caucasian. So they support him. They down for the cause. And I think we all just got to pull together and get this thing settled.
Killer Mike definitely, he has a good eye on what's going on and is not afraid to tell it. So, yeah. Great perspective on what's going on in the city, and I mean, I thank you for giving that information. I know sometimes that's not an easy conversation to have, so I definitely thank you for giving your opinion on what's going on. And of course, everybody out there, not all cops are bad, not all African Americans are thugs. We need to go ahead and stop all of this, but kind of bringing it back to
some comedian did something. It was funny, but it was true. He said we need to start taking some personal damn responsibility. He said if somebody's stealing, snitch. Don't keep it real. Snitch, tell. He said if you allow your community to get tore down, you're allowing gang members and drug dealers to stand on the corner and scare you to the point where you feel like you're in a prison in your home, you need to snitch. Police officers, if you know you did something that was not within the realm of your job, you need to be held accountable. That's all we really need to do. If people start looking in the mirror and really becoming better human beings, like a lot of these problems these aren't gray areas. These are flat out good human being, bad human being problems. So if we start focusing on ourselves more, not so much what the police are doing or not so much of what these guys in the community are doing, if we take our energy and our efforts on fixing ourselves, if it's the police officers, making sure that we follow every protocol possible, and we're not using force unless we have to, maybe whip out the taser gun and stun big dude and put him down, or hey, maybe get your butt on the sidewalk. Don't talk back to law enforcement. It's like as a parent, the thing we do to our kids, we put in their mind that police officers and law enforcement are the bad guys. You better quit doing that or I'm going to call the police. Sit back. Police right behind us. Look forward. Don't turn around. Slide your seatbelt on. It's like they're like our enemy. And on the same note, then they don't get the respect. Now, what is a police officer that's watched maybe Training Day or some movie with police officers with kicking butt and taking names, and they get to the force, they underpaid, they overworked, and they on traffic duty. This ain't what they signed on. They thought it was going to be, some wild west stuff. So now on top of that, you got a job which you're underpaid, you're risking your life every day. Then you got these kids that don't respect you, that are disrespecting your authority. It's a double-edged sword. So I think we really have to take some personal responsibility, fix self first, and then once we willing to to basically fix ourselves and even acknowledge that it's a problem there. It's a problem that it's okay. My wife worked in the school district where she was teaching kindergarten, first grade, and these kids didn't know their real names. They were going by their nicknames. They didn't even know how to spell their real name. The kid came to school Wednesday and she was like, "Why are you always gone? Why are you always absent on Wednesday from school?" She said, "Oh, because Tuesdays is $2 Tuesdays, and my mom always goes out." Like, the school is not here to raise your kids, people. Raise your own kids. It's a supplement. You're supposed to go piggyback on everything that's in the school. It's really your job to raise your kids, So that's my thought.
Father's Day's coming up, guys. He might need to get an award for that. All right, so now kind of is an interesting twist because after all of that conversation we just had, you landed a role in the upcoming biopic on the N.W.A, straight out of Compton. And, of course, the N.W.A, for folks who aren't familiar, they're a rap group, but they also were advocates for the streets during a time frame where the police had a lot of struggles with citizens in California. So now tell us about your role in that movie, and then from there, what kind of influence did that group have on you?
First off, if you don't know N.W.A, slap yourself. Slap the hell out of yourself ASAP, because everybody knows N.W.A. N.W.A, in my opinion, was one of the first, if not the first, gangster rap group that came out and was just straight hardcore gangster rap. One thing that I found out when I was on set of the movie is that these guys were not advocating you to go out and sell drugs and say F the police. They called themselves street reporters. If you look at their lives, you look at Ice Cube, who now has Q Vision and has been featured in a lot of movies and a director now, and he's transitioned so far from his music career, and he still can go and put something on wax and sell records. You think about Dr. Dre, a producer extraordinaire, left, Death Row Records, went on, did his own thing with Aftermath, signed artists like, 50 Cent, Eminem, and then went and did his headphone deal and sold that for billions of dollars. These guys they're not in Compton selling drugs. They're not out there bringing hoodlums with them trying to keep it real. They're being successful in life. They use their pain, they put it in writing, and they use the opportunity through their music to go and see parts of the world they never would have as young inner city kids from Compton. And, when I was on set, one day I just sat there and I'm like, man, I'm standing next to Ice Cube and Dr. Dre, and I'm doing this scene. I'm like, I'm making history right now. Like, it didn't really sink into me until halfway through shoot. I'm like, I'm a part of history. This biopic, in my opinion, from all the other ones, Boys in Hood, Men in Society, any hood movie that you watch that gave you a glimpse of what they saw day to day, I think that this movie is going to be by far the best. The performances, the concerts. It was a scene in the movie that we were shooting. Sony said they didn't want to shoot it, right? And Ice Cube said, no, we got to shoot this part. It's a missing link if you don't shoot it. It's a part of the story. This is going to tie in this part, so we got to do it. They said they didn't want to do it. They didn't feel like it was necessary. You know what he did? He put his own 250 in. So you know what? I want this, and you might only see 3 minutes of it in the movie, but it was that important that this movie remain authentic to him, that he put his own money into to do this one day shooting, one scene, because he felt like he wanted this to be as authentic as possible. And just to see all these guys come together, some of the guys didn't make it to set because these guys have some beef with each other, but to see Dr. Dre on set, walk on without security, giving it up to the neighborhood, Ice Cube, Yella, Ren, and just really, like, I'm from the hood, so, like, me meeting guys like Bone, like, me and Bone got really cool. Like, I had him coming to St. Louis to go and talk to kids in Ferguson with me. This whole week, that's all I've been doing, talking to schools in Ferguson, career day, anti-bullying. I don't go out and just tell everybody that because I don't do it for recognition, but it's our job, man. If you're a celebrity and you got any kind of platform, it's your job to go out there and inspire these kids, because these kids live in your neighborhood that you made it out of and you found a way to be successful in. So they really, when I did that, it was really just like, man, everybody was all, want to be around Dr. Dre and Ice Cube, and I just saw this guy, and he was walking with this aura that he demanded respect. Everybody respecting him. And, it was like, Bone said do this, Bone said do that. And I finally grabbed him. I said, man, what's your story? So he just started telling me, he said, yeah, I'm a blood. He said, I'm a Piru blood, I'm an Athens Park blood. I'm still affiliated. I just decided to quit, taking part in genocide. The gang that I was a part of, were taking a lot of lives. He went to jail. They picked him up from jail, took him right from jail, right to the set of Training Day, if you guys seen that movie. So when a guy has a gun on Denzel at the end, he said, you know what? You got to put in your own work. Everybody on that movie is an authentic Blood or Crip. 150 Bloods, 40-something Crips, all the Vatos was authentic. This dude did something that nobody would ever done. He went to the Crip set, people that he gangbanged against many, many years. He made a treaty to shoot the movie Training Day so they can shoot it in the hood. Wow. So they thought he was going to get killed. So he made a treaty for that movie. So then N.W.A. and all these other jobs, anytime somebody wants to go to L.A. and shoot something in the hood, Bone is the number one guy they call. So when I saw some videos of, Suge Knight running guys over, he was one of the guys that got hit by the truck. Like, man, that really hit me in the heart really hard because me and him built a really good relationship, and I know what he stands for.
Wow. My mind's blown already, man. I mean, just hearing that aspect of just the hood and then what's going on with the film and how revolutionary this film is going to be. I'm excited. I can't wait to see you in it. What's your role in it?
I played T-Bone from the Lynch Mob. So part of N.W.A. when Ice Cube left N.W.A., he started Lynch Mob Records, started his own rap group, and they was kind of doing a lot of battles against the former N.W.A. guys and Eazy-E and Dr. Dre. So I was a part of that group, and it was just amazing because in the movie I'm with Ice Cube a lot, and Ice Cube in the movie is actually his son, which looks a lot like Ice Cube. He knows the story better than anybody because he grew up. He was born during this story, so it's a lot of passion from all the actors in their particular roles, and I'm like his road dog, so you'll see me riding with him quite a bit in the movie.
Okay. All right, so kind of switching back into the role of MMA, a lot of fighters have voiced their opinions about this whole Reebok deal, and I'm sure, I mean, you have your own sponsors too, I'm sure, so how do you feel about the deal?
I looked at the deal when they first presented it, and I kind of understand the angle, trying to commercialize our sport, make us parallel to basketball, NFL, and some of the other major league competition. But just looking at it from a pure dollar standpoint, I think that if the UFC would have kind of did almost like a survey and see what guys were making and what they were doing, it's no real way to see if it was authentic, because guys can be like, hey, I'm making 100,000 in sponsorships, and when they're really making 40. Or guys say, hey, I'm making this amount, and there's no real way to qualify it. I think me particularly, the reason why I'll get kind of hurt from the deal is not so much because the UFC got it out for me and they taking money out of my pocket. It's because I've been able to do in 7 fights. I've only had 7 fights in the UFC. I've been able to do in 7 fights, but it's taking other guys 15, 20, whatever fights in the UFC to get to that level. So even though I'm ranked 3rd in the UFC in my division, I'm still going to get paid on tenure, which means that I'm going to fall in the category of like 6 to 10 fights, which is not a ton of money, and it's quite a lot lower than what I'm used to getting paid for sponsorship. So I just, I'm a good businessman. I kind of saw it coming. I kind of expected us to get a little bit more, but you can cry about it, but what are we going to do? It's not like we can force Reebok to pay us. The only thing we can do is continue to try to get to the top and become a champion and get more money from the sponsorship deal.
Okay, so now have you and your management teams kind of brainstorm different ways to work with your current sponsors to be able to keep them, and then from there do different things for them, whether it's speaking engagements or billboards or print ads? Have you come up with some different ways to kind of keep your existing sponsors happy?
Yeah, for sure. I'm kind of the guy that I used to be a manager for a while. And I had like 10 clients, and I was really good at it, and it was like I was almost too good at it because it was taken away from my fighting. It was taken away from my focusing on what I need to do. So when someone's managing me, they're managing somebody that knows the market very well, better than no fighter, in my opinion, knows the market better than me. I probably know the market the best out of any mixed martial artist in the UFC, and knowing your worth. And being okay with that. I'm not going to ask for numbers of somebody who's a UFC champion or has a great, brand that everybody knows, but I'm also not going to get entry-level money if I know what I'm worth. So knowing what you're worth in this market is probably more than the money you get paid, because if you don't know it, then you can kind of go for the okie doke. You can get got for the low. So for me, just knowing that, and then knowing that this was coming, I've been able to, keep great relationships with my sponsors. I had already started doing some additional stuff, and we kind of just planned the transition so that when it happened, it wasn't anything that was rough. We really didn't miss a beat, so we just kind of smoothly transitioned. And really, what did we give up? We gave up a patch on the shorts and a banner for 25-minute max. So I got a feeling that I can put my mind together and find some other things to do. I'm not going to say it on air because it takes a lot of time and mistakes, a lot of money to figure out what I figured out. So all the people that watch this, you got to figure it out for yourself.
Okay. All right. So now I had to ask this just because I remember the first time I saw it, I'm like, interesting. So your sponsor, Dude Wipes, what is it? Tell me about it, and how did that partnership come about?
What's funny is, I found Dude Wipes. They didn't really come looking for me. I had another sponsor who had sponsored me for several fights, and I was fighting against Rory McDonald, which was what we were told to be the #1 contendership fight. So I kind of knew once again, knowing the market value, I knew what a logo on my butt would be worth. And we got close to, to the fight, 2 or 3 weeks out from the fight. The company I had worked with in the past, they didn't really have it in their budget to give me the money I felt like I was deserving of. So I saw this company. I'm like, dude wipes. I'm like, how funny would it be if I came out with dude wipes on my butt? Everybody would go nuts. This would freaking go viral. And I said, that would be awesome. So I saw this is young lady I follow on social media. I think Lashante. Lashante had a funny thing about dude wipes. So I started following them and I sent them a direct message. And I asked them, have they ever thought about sponsoring an MMA fighter? So surprisingly, they were a huge MMA fan. They watch it all the time. So we only had like 6 days to put this deal together. So we really hit it aggressively, and I was able to get them a lot of love on Embedded. I was able to give them a love on a countdown, all stuff inside Octagon. And when I wore it to the freaking fight, it was a number 2 or 3 trending topic on Twitter. So they kind of blew off of it. And then from that point, you get guys, everybody start hitting them. Oh, man, you want to sponsor me? So they sponsor guys like Matt Brown. They sponsor guys like Ryan Couture. I think they sponsor some guys in the grappling tournament. And, I told them, I said, I know this market, man. I know what guys are worth. You're going to get these, these managers are going to call you and sell you a dream. These guys aren't worth the money they're going to tell you. They don't care if you go bankrupt and lose your company. They're going to drain you until they get all the money, and they're going to move on to the next company. And I just had a really heart-to-heart talk with them because, I would consider me and Ryan and some of the guys from Do Wipes to be friends. I said, you should let me operate your budget. And they said, what does that mean? I said, when people call you, they have them talk to me. Have them talk to me about who they're fighting, what card they're fighting on, what their position on the card is going to be aired on television, what their rank, what does this fight implications mean, and I can help monetize it for you. I don't need to get paid as a consultant necessarily, at least not at this point. So now I'm at a position where I'm assisting with their budget. So when fighters want to get sponsored by Do Wipes, they got to go through me. One, you got to fit the brand. You got to have a sense of humor. You can't wear Do Wipes and not have something witty to say about it or, a sense of humor. So not only is it makes sense to pay that money, but does this person fit the brand? So I've done that with them, and then so 2 other companies that, I kind of control and operate their budgets for them.
Wow. See, now this is exactly why I love doing this. People think that these guys are just dumb jocks. They punch and kick. They're Neanderthals. But people like Tyron Woodley, a businessman, knows the market. He's bringing sponsors to the industry. You know what I mean? Good to be able to pick these guys' brains and get to understand who these people are, how smart they are, how business-minded they are. Just kind of give you the big picture of, these guys are just fighters. They're also entrepreneurs, and they're handling their business. So other than that, almost getting ready to get going. You did mention that you were thinking about doing a podcast soon.
So I'm doing a podcast, and I'm doing it with Dean Thomas. So me and him have a great relationship and great chemistry. I met him at an amateur fight. A guy walked up to me, and I was fighting for ATT Missouri. It was a satellite of the main gym. I had never even been to the main ATT yet, and this was in 2005. So he was at the fight, and I looked him up. I'm like, oh, this guy's a UFC veteran, da, 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 da. So I walked up to him, and I was like, hey, what's up? I said, my name's Tyron Woodley. I fight for ATT Missouri. Pleasure to meet you, da, da, da. He said, oh, cool, man, pleasure to meet you. And I was like, hey, can you corner me tonight? I was like that dude, the amateur fighter. And he said, all right. So he jumped in my corner, and, of course, I just tuned this dude up right quick. And then I saw him at my second fight, because he was bringing guys from Florida to Missouri, because at that time Florida didn't have amateur. And he had some very green fighters that he wanted to get some experience. So he brought him to my next fight, and I saw him again. I said, hey, can you corner me again? He said, yeah. And I kind of tuned the dude up again. So it just developed into this friendship and relationship. It's very few people in a martial art career that anything they tell me is kind of law. Dean Thomas has a special spot in my heart. He's just a good dude. He's one of those guys that he doesn't have to overdo it. He has the knowledge. He has the intellect. He has the skills. He has a boxing. He has a grappling. I mean, he can even wrestle. A lot of people don't know that Dean can even wrestle. And he's just a good dude, man. He's so loyal to the point of almost to a fault, And he's been tucked away in a corner, just doing his thing from behind the scenes, helping all these fighters out. And now it's just great to see him getting the respect and, the respect he needs. He's got MMA scouting report. He just got a job at a radio station on the Josh Kuhn show, ESPN Radio. He's on the Ultimate Fighter show as a coach. Me and him are doing a podcast. He's acting. He's doing improv. So he's got a lot of things going on. I'm just blessed to be in his life and to have him as my main coach.
Okay. Yeah, Dean Thomas is awesome. And folks, if you're not familiar with Dean Thomas, check out my previous interview with him on themaineventzone.com. Good dude, had a good mind for the business as well as coaching, and then from there, him almost fighting a box as well. Great story. He's a great storyteller, so I'm really, really excited to hear a possible podcast between you two. You guys have a name for it yet?
We do, but I can't say it yet because we gotta do some things to protect it legally. I think it'll be kind of entertaining and controversial. So we do have a name. We're figuring out the schematics and things right now because we want to do it real. We want to do it the right way. We don't want to come out. There's too many podcasts out there and too many different outlets that we don't want to be just in a cluster. We want to do something different. We want to step out the box. And I think with the amount of chemistry that me and him have and the knowledge of the sports, we're going to set ourselves apart as, not only analysts but experts in the sport. But then just, not only MMA, things in entertainment, things, I train a lot of NFL football players, so things in that arena or things in movies because both of me and him are, currently doing acting and stunt roles in movies, and we can talk about that or politics or I think that it's just overall it'll be a great show. And then we both are, kind of nutty, so, the comedic aspect of it should be entertaining as well.
Okay. So now finally, you have a nice following on Twitter. I'm talking about you got folks helping you campaign for fights. Folks are keeping you motivated while you're injured. So how important is social media to fighters nowadays? And then from there, what do you have to say to your fans out there who are watching this? Should be watching this.
I appreciate my fans for a couple different reasons. I've grown a lot through social media. I know it sounds funny because social media really is in you. You put out a post. You put out, you ate this healthy dish. You put out, I did this training. We don't put out when we ate that big-ass pizza. We don't put out when we decided not to work out and go to sleep instead. So we really just kind of show people the highlights of our life. So I think social media just shows highlights of our life. And sometimes when we show something or we filter it, people can read it late. They can read it with a different mindset or different lens. They can take it a different direction. Some people are just on the internet only to smash, troll. Like you'll go on their page and all they've done all day is just bash professional athletes, actors, whatever. Some people just want to be that devil's advocate. So what I had to realize that in life, you can't control your reputation, what people think of you. You can spend all this time trying to have a good reputation, you want people to think of you a certain direction. Anytime you make one mistake, it can completely change the way people think of you. So what social media has taught me is that basically who I am as a person, my characteristic, I focus on my character. So when I leave from talking to you, I'm going to go upstairs and be the same person I am right now, the same person I'm going to be in the octagon, the same person I'm at the grocery store, the same person that's walking into Walmart with some flip-flops and holding sweatpants on. You got to maintain this authentic person, but once you really find who you are, you can be authentic, you can keep your integrity, you can let people see you. That's the way you want to grow your followers because you can keep that up for a long time because it's real. When you jump out and you do something that's not you, imagine being an American gangster freaking at freaking midnight at Walmart when you just going to get some toothpaste. And you got to flip that light switch on to be the American gangster. Or you got to be somebody that didn't come to take part, that came to take over. You got to do that, and you at a massage parlor. And it's a relaxing setting. You don't want to always have to do that. And you can, I think there's a lot of money in that. You can monetize that and sell fights and sell pay-per-view. And, and sometimes, I feel like I need to turn my brand up a little bit louder, put it on 10, but saying the same thing, but just saying it from a louder microphone. So that's something that you guys might see in this next year because I think things, I want to say things, but I also like my integrity that I've been known to have. But sometimes you want to kind of spaz out.
Okay, well, folks, this is the chosen one. So I'm sure people are going to choose to follow you on social media after that. So go ahead, give us your social media handles, Twitter, Facebook, all that.
You can look my Facebook up just off my name. My Twitter and my Instagram handle are identical. TW30, so it's TWOOODLEY. Somebody had T Woodley and somebody jacked Tyron Woodley, which I might go and try to get because they jacked Tyron Woodley. They got my picture, my gym in the background. They have 0 posts. They following 0 people, and they're not using it. So I'm gonna see if I can talk to the Twitter people. But right now, you can get me at TWOOODLEY. Make sure you put the 3 O's, and I'm on there. I'm on there every day. I might say something crazy. If you say something crazy to me, I might say something crazy back. I'm not all the way there yet, so remember that.
You got a website too. Give them the website.
Yeah, TyronWoodley.com. You can hit me up. One of the coldest websites you'll see, we jacked him. We jacked him from a boxer. I won't tell you his name, but he had the coldest website. So me and my marketing team, we said, you know what? We need that. So we kind of confiscated that and switched it over to the chosen one.
Okay. Excellent. Well, this has been an amazing interview. It's gone so far over what I expected it was going to, and I mean, it's a blessing, man. Thank you for taking the time out. We had a nice long talk here, so thank you for talking to me, sharing all your stories, letting me know what's going on with the movies, the business aspect, as well as fighting as well, man. I hope that you get your #1 contendership fight or just slot in general, and much success to you, man.
I appreciate it, man. Take it easy.
No problem. Of course, this is PAW. You are currently now leaving the main event zone. Give a shout out to MMAFightFans.com, your favorite fighter's favorite website, making all this possible from the very beginning. Talk to you soon.